Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits. So get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Jennifer Smith, and Jennifer is Executive Director of the Legal Aid Foundation of Santa Barbara County. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to this interview because I know you folks at the Legal Aid Foundation do such important work for so many people. So I'm hoping you'll tell us all about it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, in terms of our core services and our main mission, we provide free attorneys to low-income and other vulnerable residents of Santa Barbara County in order to ensure equal access to justice. And where that comes from is most people are familiar in the criminal system. If you're poor or indigent and you're accused of a crime, you have the right to attorney representation. But if you are low income or indigent and you're facing a civil case, which may include if you're facing an unjust or unlawful eviction, if you're a survivor of intimate partner violence and are in need of civil restraining order or family law services, you are not guaranteed a right to counsel. And so our goal is to try to meet this civil justice gap for the most needy in our community.
Wow. You know, I don't think I knew that. That is just, I mean, I knew you did all this great work for folks that couldn't afford it, but I don't think I realized that distinction. That's really interesting and so important.
It's true, and that's true nationwide. And in terms of our services locally, we are celebrating our 65th anniversary year this year. And, what started back in the 50s and 60s, there, was percolating, the civil rights movement and thoughts about, justice and what that means and who has access to it. And so, it started with just a handful of leaders in this community who created the Legal Aid Foundation. But today, we now operate countywide. We have offices in Santa Barbara, Lompoc, and Santa Maria.
Wow.
We have employed 23 people and provide services in areas where either safety, security, or economic well-being is at risk. So we really want to target our services to these critical service areas. So some of the areas where we have focused our services include services to survivors of intimate partner violence. In the criminal system, that system doesn't address things like what happens when there's a situation of domestic violence and what happens with custody of the children. Things like that. There may or may not be a restraining order in place. And sometimes as a reality, there may or may not be a criminal case that unfolds. And so that's where the civil system steps in. So we provide those free services to survivors of intimate partner violence and also elder abuse as well. The other area where we work in a lot is in housing and providing representation to those at risk of losing their housing due to eviction and really with an eye towards homelessness prevention in doing that work.
That's great.
And I could probably go on and on.
This is fascinating. Go on and on.
We also operate the court self-help centers. So we do as much as we can with our resources, but unfortunately we sort of can't do everything. So our courthouse-based attorneys, we have 3 of them across the county. They will provide self-help services to people representing themselves in the court process. And so, for example, if you need to know what forms to fill out for certain things, or how do you serve someone with paperwork? They can help you with that as well. So those are just some of the key areas that we work in across the county.
Wow, that self-help thing is pretty cool too.
Absolutely. It's interesting. There's such an unmet need for legal services, both in our county and statewide. And part of that, one thing that influences that a lot of people are not aware of is poverty is a real challenge in Santa Barbara County.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The data shows that if you actually factor in local, cost of living and other factors, if you look at counties across California, that Santa Barbara County is in the top 5 counties in the state for poverty. And people outside of our community, they don't know that. They think of rich people on the beach, and they don't know that about our community. And so it's very difficult for many people in our community to access legal services. But it continues to remain an ongoing challenge. So we have our areas that we focus in, that we target, and then the self-help centers also help fill the gap in the need where our offices, if we just simply have limited resources.
Yeah.
So that we work together that way.
Wow. So let's say somebody's watching this and they're really wanting to get a hold of you. Maybe they don't really know if their situation would fall into your parameters. How do they get a hold of you?
Oh, yes. So if somebody's interested in our services, there's a couple different ways that they can reach us. One is to simply call the office that's nearest to them. The other way is we also recently added an online intake opportunity for people. So if somebody is right, we have our lives. It gets busy. It gets hectic. Maybe in the evening, if it's after hours when our offices are closed, they can use that system. Or can walk in to our offices during public business hours. So just depending on a particular person's need or abilities, one of those ways can work for them.
That's great.
We also rely on referrals from trusted community partners.
Okay.
So, the legal system is confusing for everybody.
Yes.
But if you add certain layers, if you have a disabling condition, if English is not your first language, maybe your level of education is limited, those can all just add additional barriers to understanding our system. So where community members may be engaging, say, with other trusted nonprofits in the community, or just other agencies, those agencies also serve as important points of contact to connect individuals to our services, especially if they're unfamiliar with the legal system or don't know about us.
Wow. So you do a lot of collaboration, it sounds like.
Absolutely. We have both formal and informal partnerships across Santa Barbara County. And I really think this is a trend in the nonprofit community more broadly. I think particularly, in Santa Barbara County, we have a mix of urban and rural areas. There are just so many unmet needs that we have to be smart about resources, and we have to partner together. And our team, their expertise are the legal issues, but there's plenty of issues that aren't our expertise.
Sure.
And so we want to connect people so that they can be treated holistically as a whole human. So a couple different examples. We have a partnership. This is a relatively new program. We have a partnership with Good Samaritan Shelter. and to provide disability advocacy services for people currently experiencing homelessness. So oftentimes when somebody's experiencing homelessness, it may be very difficult for them to apply for Social Security benefits that they're likely eligible for. It's hard enough for anybody to do, but right, we all know paperwork, bureaucracies, understanding these systems is so challenging. So our team sort of works on that Social Security advocacy side, and the Good Samaritan team works on the housing and shelter side, and we partner together with an eye towards, again, we're trying to reduce the impacts of homelessness. We also partner with Family Service Agency in terms of serving seniors who have been victimized, either exploited, victimized in some way. They might be vulnerable. And then we also have a new partnership with the North County Rape Crisis Center in terms of serving, survivors of intimate partner violence and sexual assault up in North County. And so it's just so important because all outcomes are improved if we can, connect and serve the whole person.
That is great. So you've got, what did you say, 3 offices?
That's correct.
So do you notice any difference in need or demand for services in any of them? Or do the attorneys and the other employees kind of move between them? Or are they pretty much stationed at each office?
It's interesting because things have been changing with the use of technology, and particularly in the last 3 to 5 years. There are certainly differences, and I think as for anybody who's experienced, the different communities that we have in Santa Barbara County, they all have such unique needs. We do see ongoing need throughout the county. What we do see in terms of some of the unique challenges in terms of different areas, certainly, right, some of our remote areas of our county, if you're having to travel long distances to reach a courthouse. And the other issue we see is for areas where we may have large immigrant populations, there can sometimes be a fear about engaging and asking for help, both a fear and potentially an added barrier to trust and understanding, especially if you come from a country where the legal system is not trustworthy. So we certainly see regional differences. Our attorneys right now are, most of them, not all, but are sort of working on a hybrid basis. So both some work from home and in person. But what we have found is with the use of things like video conferencing services, is our team is better able to support each other and collaborate across the county and share our expertise. And so that's really been great to see, particularly in the last few years. And they can back each other up, as simple as if somebody's sick or those sorts of things. So it's very exciting. And the reason why having an attorney is so important is the data shows that outcomes are more fair when you have attorney representation. And our system was designed with the idea that people would be represented on both sides. And you think about the scales of justice, that you have that fair outcome. And so when you have a disparity and somebody doesn't have an attorney, the system is simply, the outcomes are not as fair. It's also just, frankly, messier for the court system. People get tripped up, they don't know what to do, and it also frankly can waste judicial resources and court resources. So there's also an efficiency that comes with making sure that everybody has access to services. And one exciting thing is in the last fiscal year, our attorneys ended up, and our clients either had amounts waived or amounts received in over $2 million.
Wow.
So there's also this return that goes to the community when legal services are provided. It was a little bit of a unique year in that we think some of that was through our advocacy to help people get rental assistance that was available during the COVID period. But even so that might have been a little bit unique, but in any given year, we have that sort of return on investment that these dollars go either back into our clients' hands, it's not on their credit report, and really empowers people. So what I like to say for people out there who are looking at which types of nonprofits to support is there's a really excellent return on investment when you're supporting legal services and legal aid.
Well, and the Legal Aid Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit, right?
Yes, that is correct. We are effectively a nonprofit law firm. And so individuals, they can, take a look at the website and find if they'd like to support us. There's a donate button there.
Yay.
And they can, there's so many different ways that people can give these days. And community support is so important. And it's increasingly something other funders ask about and want to see that we're being smart and leveraging. And so funders are asking, what is your community doing to support you? And yes. So everything. And the other thing I like to tell people is every amount makes a difference. So we've seen people support us and they give $10 a month. So I know sometimes either when you're young or maybe you're older and on a fixed income and you think, well, there's no possible way that I could make a difference. But whatever your circumstances, I can tell you whatever cause you care about, that whether it's $10 a month or more, it really does make a difference to organizations like ours and others.
That is great. Well, this is certainly a worthy organization to donate to. That sure sounds like. So yeah, a person can go on your website and take care of that. And so, all right, Jennifer, we have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
I bet you've got a story you'd like to tell us.
Absolutely. There's so many stories, and it's great to share some of them. People come to us in some of the most stressful times of their lives, right? Maybe their safety, their housing is at risk. And it can be really scary to even take that step and seek help.
Yeah.
Before I served as an executive director, I was actually doing some of the day-to-day work myself. And as one example, we had a client who had an ex who was a stalker. And it started out with notes being left on the car. And this is clearly after a breakup has happened. So, leaving notes, and even following my client in their car, and then starting to follow the client in the car with a wig. And it was a tricky situation because, law enforcement is trying to judge, well, can I really just take any action? It can be hard for there to be proof. Yeah. But under the circumstances, we represented this woman to seek a restraining order. And then we were able to counsel her about the restraining order process. There was later a violation of that order where this individual showed up at the workplace. but that order protected her. And so we were able to make sure that the order was enforced, the individual was arrested, and she was able to stay safe. And one thing she said to me was, "Oh my gosh," after everything concluded, she said, I'm feeling so much better. My blood pressure is better. I'm not afraid to go to sleep at night. I'm not afraid for my children and if they're going to be hurt." So it really makes a difference in people's lives.
That is a fabulous story. Oh my gosh. Jennifer, you're doing such important work, and thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, thank you. And it's really, the entire team that does the work, and I'm really proud of them.
Yes. And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.